On the US oil, what do we have on the US oil right now? Well, it's important I run through how we started the week so that you can also, if you had missed out on our previous session, so that you can also be on the same momentum with us. So the beginning of the month, we had the situation where price was consolidating between the $76.68 level, which we initially identify as the resistance level for the week. And then we had a support level for the week at the $75.80 area. So there was a little consolidation in this market, which emphasized the indecision in the market at the beginning of the week. And you all know what we look out for whenever we spot this kind of structure in the market. We wait for price action to either break out of that channel to the upside to give us trading opportunity, or breakdown of the channel to give us selling opportunity. Well, as we see right here, we saw our price action broke down the $75.80 level, where we took advantage of some selling opportunity a couple of times there, as price action actually moved about I think 70-80 pips thereabout before we started seeing this bullish momentum that began during the New York session on Monday. And if you remember what we said about the current structure after identifying this bearish trend line that has been going on in this market in the last couple of weeks, you will remember we identified, connected a series of lower highs here, which gave us that bearish trend line. And what we saw at the beginning of the week was price action breaking out of that structure, doing a retest of that level. And one interesting thing about that structure is that price action transitioned into a reversal pattern around that area. Let me show you, let me give you a visual representation of what I'm talking about. So we saw the first touch here. We saw the second touch with a beautiful reversal pattern with a neckline sitting at around the 76 and the $75.80 level, where a breakout of this structure will be triggering our buy position. And we were lucky enough to be part of this move as we rode the move at the breakout of the $75.80 level. Price action did a retest of structure, and since then price action has been finding higher highs. And then we were opportune to add more position at breakouts of structures like the $76.68 level, which we actually identified during the live session yesterday. We said we are going to be looking forward to a breakout of that structure to join that rally to the upside. And in fact, price action moved significantly well from the $76.68 level, as it moved about 120 pips in our direction before this bearish momentum started. We saw price action come back to do a retest of that structure again. So another 110-120 pips move also happened at this point before the selling momentum took over this market. So if you had been with us here on the US oil since the beginning of the week, you will definitely be in profit at this point, as price action has moved a whooping over 200 pips in our favor since we entered that position above the $75.80 level. Now, in addition to this current structure here, what we identified here was a bullish momentum since the beginning of the week. And to further emphasize the strength of the buyer since the beginning of the week, we were able to connect the series of higher lows here, which has given us this bullish trend line. And one thing I saw here during the early hours of today was, if we consider the selling pressure that has gripped this market since the New York session yesterday, as you can see here, it is very, very obvious that as soon as price got into that $77.85 level, we have been witnessing selling pressure from that area, negating all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. And this was a beautiful signal that sellers might likely be coming in. And I shared this on my public platform this morning, where I said if price action breaks down the $77.40 area, which also shares a beautiful confluence with that bullish trend line here, we might likely be seeing some selling opportunity, as the bullish trend line may no longer have the capacity to continue to hold that bullish momentum. And this was exactly what happened. Price action broke down the $77.40 level, and if you had been part of this trading opportunity, kudos to you for being on standby to catch that move, as price action is currently running with about let's see, about 80 pips in profit at this moment. So congrats to everyone who are taking advantage of this opportunity, and the next thing you want to be doing right now is to secure this current position, as we don't want to lose whatever we had made so far on this current one. So the most appropriate area to secure this position is to place your stop loss somewhere right around the $77.20 level. Let's secure this current position and wait out to see how price action will be reacting to the $76.68 level. Now let me refresh our memories regarding the $76.68. Now, if you look at what has been happening here since the beginning of this week, remember I told you how the $76.68 level had been a strong resistant in this market. As you saw here, as soon as price got into the structure at the beginning of the week, we begin to see some selling pressure resume from that area, negating all attempts of the buyers to break out of that structure. And not until the New York session yesterday when we saw the breakout. Okay, I think this actually happened during the live session yesterday. I think towards the end of the live session yesterday, we witnessed the breakout of the $76.68 level, triggering a buy position. And with a breakout of structure like this, we all expect that at one point in time, from a technical standpoint, price is likely going to come back, do a retest of that structure to incite another wave of bullish momentum. But what we saw here is quite interesting, as the bullish momentum we expected to start from the $76.68 level appeared to have been negated. As you can see here, price was unable to break the previous high, hereby giving us a higher low. And whenever you have a higher low with this kind of situation following a strong impulsive move to the upside, there is a high chance that sellers are gradually coming in this market. So what this simply means that we might be going through a profit-taking activities right now, as those who are taking advantage of this opportunity from this current structure will definitely want to be doing some profit taking at one point, and this will be reflected on the chart as a retracement phase. So how far will this retracement go with what we don't know at this particular point in time? But if we zoom out a little bit into the structure we identified at the beginning of the week, if you remember, we had a major bullish trend line which we identified on the 4 hours time frame. We are still going to go into that in a moment, as we saw higher lows here which we identified after connecting the series of higher lows, and there is a likelihood that price action could retrace back into the structure in anticipation of another wave of bullish momentum. So if we continue to sell this bearish move to the downside, we might be having our TP target fall around the 76 and the $75.25 level to secure, to have our TP target sitting around that area. And now, depending on how price action reacts to this trend line, will now determine if we are going to continue to sell the USOIL, or we shall be anticipating a bullish momentum from this area. So there are two things that could happen. If it happens that price action comes into the trend line, we might see buying pressure resume again to incite another wave of bullish momentum, or we could see a breakdown of that trend line to incite a sell-off in this market. So these are the things we are going to be looking forward to today. So for those who are already in this trade, ensure you have moved your stop loss accordingly to secure your position. And one thing also we also going to be looking at is how price action will be reacting to this level to decide what our next line of action will be. And if we begin to see buy pressure resume here, this is likely going to be a retracement into the structure that was broken earlier, that might likely incite another wave of bearish momentum. So we are going to be keeping this possibility in mind too as well. But before I go into the details of how to take advantage of a trading opportunity around the $76.68 level, let's quickly run through the daily time frame. Let's see what is really going on the higher time frame, then we shall be coming back into the lower time frame to decide what our next line of action will be. Now, scaling up into the daily time frame, what did we see at the beginning of the week? At the beginning of this week, we identified the $76 level to be serving as our yardstick for trading activity for this week. And how did we say we are going to be using that structure? Well, we said if price action trades above the $76 level, we continue to look out for buying opportunity, and if price action drops below the $76 area, we shall be looking out for selling opportunity. But the way things are looking right now appears that price is currently above the $76 area, and definitely we want to be patient enough to see how price action will be reacting to this current structure to determine what our next line of action will be. And one thing you will notice here in the last 36 hours now, you will see that as soon as price got into that $77.60 70 area, we have been witnessing selling pressure in the last 48 hours. So what we want to be doing now is to scale down to a much lower time frame to look out for how participants in this market has been reacting to that $77.80 area to decide what our next line of action will be. Now, if we scale down to a much lower time frame, let's first of all go into the 4 hours time frame. There's something here I would like to call our attention to. And on the 4 hours time frame, look at what we have here. The first thing you will notice on the 4 hours time frame is the fact that price action has been bearish in the last couple of weeks. And what you saw here, you can see after identifying this bearish range, which was as a result of connecting the series of lower highs here, we have this bearish structure figured out. But one thing we saw during the later part of last week's trading session was quite interesting, as we saw as soon as price broke down that $76 level, which I identified on the daily time frame, which I said is going to be the yardstick for trading activity for this week. We saw the breakdown of that structure happened on the last trading day of last week's trade. Okay, I think the second half of last week's trading session. As soon as price dropped into the $74 area, we begin to see some buy pressure resume from that area. Price moved into the bearish trend line with the hopes that it's going to respect that trend line one more time to incite another wave of bearish momentum. But no, that did not happen. As we saw price drop a little to the downside, it was a sharp rejection of somewhere right above the $74 area, which triggered this bullish, this hammer candle, giving us a clue that there are still tendencies of buying momentum gradually coming in behind the scenes. And as a result of this, we connected this series of lower highs here to identify that bullish trend line. And since the beginning of this week, here on the 4 hours time frame, you can see we had the breakout retest of that bearish trend line to give us a signal of a bullish momentum. You all know from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakout of structure, a retest of structure will be followed by buying pressure on our lower time frame will be a beautiful signal to join a trend continuation. And thank goodness we were lucky enough to be part of this bullish momentum as we rode the move all the way from the $75.80 level into somewhere around this area when we started seeing selling momentum gradually coming in again. As you can see here, this lasted about let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 about 24 hours. We saw selling pressure. Sellers continue to negate all attempt by the buyers to break out of that structure. And if we go back into the past and to go to as far back as the second week of last month's trading session, we can see what happened around that area. We saw selling pressure here. During the on the 20th of February, we saw selling pressure resume around that area. And during this week now, we are beginning to see selling pressure around that area as price is yet to break out of that structure. So for a bullish momentum to be very, very valid at this particular point in time, we need the breakout of that significant structure at the $77.40 level to further emphasize the strength of the buyers at this particular point in time. But now that we are seeing selling pressure resume from that area, and this selling pressure had actually broken down that bullish trend line that has been supporting bullish momentum since the beginning of this week. It is more or less a beautiful signal that price action is likely going to be going through a retracement phase at this point. And like I said, on the 1 hour time frame, we shall be looking forward to price action dropping back either into this bullish trend line, which I said has been supporting bullish momentum since last week here, to see how price action will be reacting to the structure here to decide what our next line of action will be. And if you look at that structure here, it also shares a confluence with a support level for this week, which is sitting at the $75.80 area. So for this selling momentum we have taken advantage of at the beginning of the week, we should be having our TP target sitting somewhere between the structure here, $75.80 and the $75.25 area, at least in the meantime. And like I said, if you had missed out on this opportunity here, obviously we are going to be looking out for how to take advantage of the another position here. So right now price is currently trading along the $76.68 level, which was serving as the resistance point for the week. So we are going to be going down to the lower time frame to see how price action is currently reacting to that structure, and whatever technical parameters we're able to identify there on our lower time frame shall be the basis for our trading activity for today. So from the higher time frame right now, we are seeing something very bearish now. So for buying the US oil here, we want to see price action break out of the sell zone, the supply niche that we have here, to buy the US oil at this particular point in time. But if price action continues to trade to the downside, that is break down the structure, we look out for selling opportunity. So let's scale down to the lower time frame. Let's see how participants in this market is currently reacting to the $76.68 level.